Good morning, students. Today we're going to talk about lists. In Python, there is something called a list. How can I create this list? First of all, I need to understand that the list is a value that contains multiple values in order sequence. So the order here is very important. A list value looks like cat, bat, rat, elephant. You see here the string are typed with quote and after that cat and quote. So that means if I want to type string, I have to add this quote. Exactly the same thing for the list. If I want to start a list, I have to start with square bracket and end with square bracket. So this is very important if I want to start a list and tell Python the name that I'm adding or the string that I'm adding, it's on the list. I have to open square bracket, add whatever I want and close it. So again, it's very important to start my list with an opening square bracket, and after that at the end I close with another square bracket. Value inside the list are also called items, which means cat, it's an item, bat, it's an item, rat, it's an item, elephant, it's another items. How we separate the items? By comma. So you see here there is small commas that I have to use it to separate the items. So here the first line, I'm creating a list of 1, 2, 3. Python will see opening bracket, square bracket and closing square bracket. That means this is a list. There is comma, that means I have 3 items, 1, 2 and 3. The same thing, cat, bat, rat, elephant. You see it here, I have 4 elements separated by commas. Can I mix between different type of data? Yes, I can use string like hello. I can use float number like 3.1415. I can use Boolean type as true or false. I can use a none and I can use integer. So I am mixing between all the data that Python can understand in one list. It will return the list again, and there is nothing wrong with doing that. Now, if I create a list, can I name it? Yes. So here you can see that I am assigning a list to a variable called spam. So when I type spam, it's gonna return the element of this list. So I can do the same thing if I go and search for Python. And when I open it, I'm gonna again create a new file. And let's say I'm gonna name this file save as. Under my desktop, let's say I'm gonna name it as list program. So I save it and I start now to create. Let's say I want to create a class list. So class list equal to, and I'm gonna start to name a list. So I have to open a square bracket and I can start with naming Martin, quote, and after that comma. After that I can use Victoria, quote, comma. After that quote, I can say Matthew, and quote, comma, and another one quote. I can use, let's say, Agni, and quote, and I close the bracket. So this is my class list. If I want to use this class list in anything, it can work. So I'm going to copy paste this to show it to you in the shell how it can work. If I type now enter, nothing will happen, but if I call class list and enter, it's gonna return the list Martin, Victoria, Matthew and Agni. Excellent. There is a lot of stuff we can do with this list. So let's see what we can do when I have a list. Say you have the list cat, bat, rat, elephant stored in a variable named span. So here you see this is the list and I name it as a span, or I assign this list to a variable called span. The Python code span 0 would evaluate to cat. What the meaning span 0? That I am telling Python, hey Python, you have a list. Each item has a position. So, or we can say has index. So the first one, the first item has an index 0. The second one has index 1. The next one has an index 2, and so on. So how to call this index? If I want to call cat only, I write span 0. That means give me the item or return to me the item at the index 0 or in the position 0. And you see here 0 because this is the start one, so we start with 0, not 1. So you see span 0 it's going to be the cat, span 1 it's going to be bat, span 2 it's going to be rat, span 3 it's going to be elephant. You will notice something very, very important, that the last index, so you see here the last index is 1 less than the size of the list. This span, it has 4, this is a size, 4 items. The last index here is going to be 3, so 1 less. So now let's test what I just created now. We created what? We created a class list Martin Victoria. If I want Agni only, so I'm going to say Agni in the position what? 0, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to write exactly like class list and the square bracket 3, because in the index 3, and square bracket. If I click enter, it's going to return Agni only. If I want Victoria in the position of not 2, 1, because Martin is 0, so Victoria is 1. So I can type class list square bracket, and after that 1 and square bracket. So as soon as I click, it can return Victoria. So it's very important to know that the index can help me to get one item only from the list, and don't forget the first one is at the index 0. See here this example, the concatenating with span 1, concatenating at the, concatenating span 0. So if I want to say the bat at the cat, I can do it with this way, and it's going to return me exactly the bat at the cat with this way. So be careful again, the index has to be between the square bracket, and don't forget the first one, it starts with index 0. Python will give you an index error message if you use an index that exceeds the number of value in your list. What the meaning of that? If I go to my list here, how many items I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. That means 0, 1, 2, 3. This is the index. If I type class list, and instead of, let's say, saying Agni, this is 3. If I say 4 by mistake, there is no index 4 because Martin index 0, Victoria index 1, index 2 Matthew, index 3 Agni. So 4 doesn't exist. So if I click enter, right away it's gonna tell me the list index out of range. It doesn't exist. So don't forget that. And this can help us to understand that, oh, maybe I did a mistake. I was thinking Agni at the index 4, but it's index 3. What else? We cannot accept float numbers. So if I want, let's say, I need Victoria or Matthew, or let's say Victoria. So I'm going to say class list square bracket 1 square bracket with this way, it's going to return Victoria. But if I type class list square bracket 1.0 and square bracket, This float number is gonna cause a problem, and right away I'm gonna get error message. And the type of error, that list indices must be integers or slices, not float. So float, it's not acceptable. Excellent. Let's go to another thing. List can also contain other list values. The values in this list of lists can be accessed using multiple index. This is clear 100% that now I'm creating a list called spam, but you will see a list and another list inside the original list. So that means I created two lists. The first list, it has a type of strings, all cat, bat names, and the second one, it's numbers. No problem. This is, and you can mix, no problem. But I'm saying that you want to create two lists in one. Now, if I call spam 0, that means what? That means spam will say what? My list, it has two lists. So the first list at index 0 and the second at the index 1. So that means when I call spam 0, it's not going to return cat only, no, the whole list, because the whole list at the index 0. So it's going to return cat, bat. What about if I say 0, 1? That means I'm telling Python, go to the first list at index 0, which is cat, bat, and choose for me the one in position 1 or at index 1. So cat has an index 0, bat has index 1, so it's going to return bat. The second example, if I'm saying spam, go to index 1 first. So right away, this list is my index 1. And choose for me index 4. So I know that 10 it's at 0, 20 at 1, 30 at 2, 40 at 3, 50 at 4. So it's going to choose 50 for me. So let's practice this with the real example. So I have here, let's say I'm going to create, I'm going to name anything, my list, for example, equal. I'm going to open the square bracket, and after that one quote, and I'm going to say, let's say Natalie. After that quote, after that the comma to create another one, and I create the next one, let's say Alicia, one quote, and I close this list by a square bracket like that. If I want to include in my list another one, so I can type another square bracket and add comma and add another square bracket to create another list saying 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and close this, and after that close the large one like that. And you will notice something very important. I have to count how many opening, how many closing. If they are not equal, I did a mistake. So one opening, second opening, third opening, and closing, one closing, second closing, third closing. So my list is going to be okay. If I click enter, I have everything correct. So now I want to choose number 20, or I need item that it has 20 as a value. How can I get it? So I'm gonna write my list and open the square bracket and say what? I need to choose 20. 20 is which index for my list? I know that Natalie and Alicia at index 0 and all this number at index 1. So I'm gonna type 1, close the bracket. And I need from this list 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. From this list I need 20. 20 at index 0. So I open bracket, 0, bracket. And now if I click enter, right away it's going to return 20. Let's do another example. If I need Alicia, so I know that in my list I have what? Alicia, it exists in the first list, which is index 0. And after that, Alicia in the position, the second one in this list. But because Natalie, it's index 0, so Alicia is going to be index 1. So bracket 1 bracket. If I click enter, right away it's going to return Alicia. And you see right away when it returned 20, it returned it as integer type. When it returned Alicia, it returned it as string type. So don't forget that the index starts from 0. It's confusing a little bit. And please, when you create list in a list, make sure that when you type it, so if I'm saying my list, and if I want to create, let's say, 3 lists, so this is my first list, comma, my second list, comma, my third list, and don't forget that this is in this list that it called my list. Now, to avoid mistake, the best thing that I know that anything like that, this is open bracket, and if I have something like that, this is close bracket. So I have to count how many open, 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 open. So that means I have 4. Let's see the closed. Close, 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 close. 4 and 4, that means I don't have any error in the number of code. So it's not going to return to me any error message. And this is the best thing when you type a list inside a list. You have to count how many opening bracket, how many close. If they are not matching in the number, that means it's going to return an error message. I hope that you understood this piece for the list, and in the next video it's going to give you another part number 2 about the list. Thank you for listening.